Terrible. This should be a human. Couldn't.
No, but it's over there.
Be a human?
Yeah, that's all.
Hey.
This is the best. This is gonna look great in 20 years.
Okay. Can you guys just
Hey,
give me a
check
little
one,
check?
two.
Yeah, that's
Hey, check one,
perfect.
two.
Hey,
All right.
hello.
Hey, where you hail from?
Let's see. here.
I'm from just on your right. My name is Joe.
All right. I'm just going to hop right in. My name is Brandon Clements. This is a new episode of Dead Dialect Podcast. It's been a little while, but we'll talk about that later. First things first, thank you guys for doing this. I can't tell you how much this means a lot, or how much it means to me. I know I've spoken to you before. I've gone through this all before, but specifically with you two, and obviously what you guys have been doing recently. But I grew up on Fugazi, probably the most important band to me in terms of my creative journey, and just the way that you guys always operated, and maintaining your morals and your ethics, and never breaking, has just really flown / just evolved right over into me as a person, even beyond my creative endeavors. So again, this means so much, and thank you guys for sitting here and listening to me, because I'm been looking for this, frankly, for my entire life.
Honestly, I don't think this podcast would exist without like the kind of precedent that you guys have set as a band in Fugazi, the whole DIY ethic type of thing. This is directly, I mean, it's kind of what we based this whole thing on, so.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you.
So first things first, how has this been, this new venture, this new group, the new records? Can you just give me a little rundown on how this has been for you guys and how it feels to be back out on the road making music? And
It feels great. I mean, it's just great to be playing with Joe again, and playing with somebody, not just somebody like Anthony, but Anthony himself.
That's well put.
So you guys,
He's right there.
He's right. The guy to my right, just second farthest over, Anthony. He's it's been we kind of hit the ground running. So we recorded. As soon as we got together, we started writing a lot, and Anthony had a ton of ideas, and it was just automatically started playing shows immediately, and recording, and then going out on the road. We just have been playing constantly, and we got together in 2017, and we played 200 or 300 shows since then. I mean, it's crazy. We've been to Japan and Europe a couple times, and all over the States many times. So it's been a little crazy, and we're still, trying to push the limits of what our bodies will do at this point. Yeah.
So could you explain a little bit how the meeting even happened? Like I read about Anthony, and I see the word virtuoso thrown around a lot, but like, is that somebody? Were y'all just in the same circles, and you decided to you were impressed by his music, and were like, oh, I want to.
Well, I would go see him as a fan,
Yeah.
in DC. He played in a lot of different. He started coming up on my radar as somebody who was like, I was watching videos, then I'd show up and watch him play great Danny Gatton style guitar, and noise guitar and jazz, and just inserting himself into all sorts of precarious musical environments, and I grew to really respect it. And he and his wife Janelle have a really lovely duo, Janelle and Anthony, and so I was really moved by how much he was pushing himself, and so I was constantly looking for a way to insert, to try to collaborate. So we collaborated initially on a film piece. I was doing this thing called Burn to Shine, and at the end of the Burn to Shine film, there was a demolition of a house. Okay. And so we needed to have the sound. We needed the music for the demolition of the house. So I asked Janelle and Anthony to come and play on it with me. And so we just put this 4-minute demolition of a house scene up and ran it 4 times and came up with some ideas, and just really flowed. It was really fun, and it turned out really well. And I was like, oh, that was worked better than I ever could have imagined. And then and about the same time or a little later, I guess Joe had been back, and Joe and I were trying to work on stuff together as well, like just to, getting together and collaborating on his music. But he came back from Rome with a lot of music. He can describe it to you better than I can of what it was.
Yeah, I had never seen Anthony play. I didn't even know. I didn't know anything about Anthony. I'd never heard his name because I was away for 8 years. So I think it was during that time that Brendan saw him playing in all those different situations. And the last 3 years I was in Italy, I wasn't trying to tour my solo music, and I was just putting music together that in the end, I didn't really understand what it was or what I was going to do with it. I knew that I didn't want to sing on whatever this was, and I wanted really good improvisers to play on it. So when I came back, just messing around with my solo music, with Brendan, I played him that stuff, and that made him think of Anthony as being a good guitarist to bring in. So.
And all these things just kind of came together at the perfect time and at the right time. Last time you and I spoke, I know that you had mentioned that I think it was either right before you came back or it was definitely, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. So I think it might have been right after, actually. But you had mentioned that you guys still jammed, still played, and had ideas. So it was super interesting for me after that to see that evolve into a project and to see that project begin so fast and, just immediately put stuff out and immediately tour. And I don't know, that was just for me as like a fan and a viewer was like, oh, of course, that's what happened to that stuff, I guess. So that it's cool to hear that confirmed.
In a lot of ways, that's the way Fugazi worked too. Is like once we started playing together, it felt really fluid, like it was really prolific, and everybody really wanted to play. Everybody, and so you can only play so many times in D.C. or Virginia or Maryland, so you want to play as much as possible, and you get out there and you just play as much as possible. And that's, to me, that's all I really want to do. I mean, I really love, sitting around in my house, and I like my house, but I really I love playing live, and I love, and I want to, and playing with, when you have a band, that's to me the mark of a band that's like actually a band is that they want to continue to do it. They want to push it.
Yeah, and Fugazi was one of those bands that was known for the live performances and how often you guys played and just does any point that ever kind of feel like a pressurized situation where you may be known for something, especially if it's something like a live performance? Because I know it's very clear that you guys are very honest players when you're playing your music, and if you're having a bad night, maybe I don't know if that means a bad performance, but in other words, is there any kind of, do you ever feel any kind of pressure from a performance standpoint?
I don't think, I think we like to play enough that it just kind of overrides that, because you just have to, if you have to play, you just get up there and do it. And then if something isn't so great, that's why there's 5 more shows coming, because you have to keep trying. Yeah. And honestly, that's it. I mean, Fugazi was that way. It was like, this just felt awful, but that could be true of just one of us. Sure. On a night, just have a really bad night, we could see that one person could have a horrible show and the rest of us could have an okay show, or, and that's what you do, is you just go like there's tomorrow. And it's all part of, I think for us, for writing songs even, we write them to perform them in front of people, but, you have to write enough for a set, and that can become an album, and then, you go out and you do it, and it's all part of the same thing. So, there's no time to worry about expectations or anything. It's like it's something that you're, I feel very fortunate to be able to do. Period, that we get a chance to go do it. It's not like hordes of people are coming out to see what we're doing, and I don't know how long, everything can happen, but we like doing it, so we're just going to keep trying to book and keep making things happen.
I love it.
So you guys are sitting on a new release that came out this month, and what's interesting about that, it came pretty quickly after it's a self-titled. It's been a year, and I wanted to know, since you guys had put that together just a few days or a few shows that y'all played together, wanted to know, over the past year, how have y'all settled into as being a band, and how do you think, and what areas do you think that plays out in a new album? How does the new album distinguish itself from the subtitled?
Anthony, answer that one. Unless he doesn't have an
well, the first album was recorded after only maybe a handful of shows.
Yeah.
So the music, I mean, it happened very quickly and it felt very good almost immediately. But the songs didn't get to develop in front of people, and we didn't, we were rehearsing a lot before our first show, but for some of the songs on this new record, we've been playing them for almost a year. And a song like Section 9, the third track on the record, was actually the first song that we played together.
Yeah.
So that was the big difference, just letting them kind of take shape on their own in front of people. And
Is it harder to name songs when there's like not lyrics to them? Because
sometimes.
like Touch Earth, Touch Earth, Touch Sky. That's like an example of one where I feel like you would have to go off the theme or like because it has like an ambient feel to it. And it's an ambient song, and so I gotta imagine that's the only way you kind of have to do it, or either
that was
or
one
just
of the
think-
easy ones.
Wow.
But there were more challenging songs to name.
That's cool. That's a great video for that song, by the way.
Thanks. Yeah, that's my friend Dan Sharnoff who did
okay.
that video. I went to high school with him.
Oh, nice. How much of a role do you think music videos will play in as far as Messthetics goes? Because I know Fugazi didn't really do music videos very often. It was like a lot of recording and documentary type things, but I feel like with Messthetics, there's a lot of room for the visual aspect.
Sure.
And I just wanted to know what do you guys think?
We're not actively trying. I think the things come up when people ask. We're happy that somebody wants to be involved.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't you say that more than we haven't been asking people to really do it. But I had a friend who wants to put some images, so I sent her one of the songs on the album. And I was just like, why not? I mean, it's just an easy thing to do now. If someone feels inspired to do that with one of our songs, I just think it's cool. So
I've had a couple filmmakers come up and say that they want to use some of the thing, that it feels like soundtrack music. And
it's
you
very-
can imagine. I mean, Dan's thing was really ambitious because that's a really long song.
Yeah.
But I really love what he did.
Yeah, it was
So I
great.
think that's the mark of it. If somebody feels inspired to do something, then we're inspired by
Cool.
that. I mean, I'm always looking for people who are motivated.
So I want to make sure that I touch on a couple of other projects that you guys have been involved with, and specifically Joe. And I don't really see a lot of coverage / press and interviews about Ataxia, but Ataxia was, for me, also a very important band, even from just the little information that I got about this group. Is there anything you'd like to add about the legacy of this band / group and what it meant to you, even though, as far as I know, it was just a single or a couple recording sessions? Because
I think anything that you've found, me talking about it is probably, I'm going to only say the same thing because it all happened in about 12 days.
Yeah.
So it's the kind of thing that normally wouldn't have been recorded and then released as a record, 2 records. It would have been a project that happened to play, 2 shows.
Yeah.
And they asked me to play the John's solo music that Josh and John were working on.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have never really developed that skill of learning to play other people's music in a way, like just from hearing it recorded.
Mm-hmm.
I get together with people and write with them.
Right.
Like that's how. And so I just didn't learn them very well. So I tried to just kind of show up and go like, okay, we're practicing them together now for this show we're going to play. And then I was just like, I didn't really figure these out very well. And John said, well, I kind of hate to waste the time playing music that we wrote. So why don't we just make stuff together that we're playing for this show? And so it was they're really simple things so I could remember them. I was going to play 10 songs at a show, and I had to remember how they went, So it's really strange.
Yeah,
It just shouldn't have been a record. It's really crazy.
Oh, but
that's great that people like it.
I love those albums.
Mm-hmm.
They're very meditative, in a weird way, just because again there are a lot of these songs will hang on to the same grooves and jams for a while and build and swell, and there's something to be said about how powerful they can get.
It was kind of an assignment. Those guys were putting out an album every month for a record collector or something like that, their label. and I think it was, it became a reason to have another record, but it was literally an assignment where the bass line shouldn't change, and they had to write around it, and they had to write verses and choruses, etc.
Was that like something you did often, jam with those two, or was that just like kind of a weird whim kind of thing?
Not
where they
before and after those 12 days.
That was it. That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me.
It's just.
It sounds like a rumor most of the time. You're like, it's something you tell people. I'm like, but
That's
no,
not true.
The guy is telling me that
Cool.
it was 12 days.
And that's
It
why I
is.
had to ask, because it's like I didn't know how much of this, how much of these things were true, because there is so little
Yeah.
about, the,
Yeah, because we were gonna just play the shows, and one show ended up becoming 2 shows, and then the weekend the shows were like on a Monday and Tuesday,
Yeah.
and the weekend, as the weekend grew closer, I think John said, "Do you mind if we record them on Saturday?" So it's pretty much that, Saturday and Sunday recording, and then playing Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then they went back and did more mixing or whatever, and figured out the mixes.
My only gripe is that Apple Music, I guess, confuses it with
with
like
another Ataxia.
Yeah, that's a death metal
Oh,
attack.
yeah,
There's a
wow.
death
It's got
metal
the
band.
death metal font and everything on it. It's like,
Yeah, so y'all's first two records, and then it's still the description of your group, but then the newest release is from a couple years ago, and it's a death metal band.
I remember
And
my
it's
first time, I
in
was
the
like, holy
same-
shit, new Ataxia? But
And
was
it's
it?
not. It's
no.
totally not.
See what happens without physical evidence of
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
It's just all floating around in a.
Well, as far as other projects go, I wanted to ask you: did you ever get to jam with Fred Armisen as part of Riot Spray?
I'm trying to think if we jammed. I guess, the only jamming that we did during that was at the very last scene of that. We're playing on the patio of the restaurant. And while they were setting up for that, Chris Novoselic, who was in Flipper for a while,
Okay.
Yeah.
started playing Flipper tracks. And I grew up on Flipper, and
man.
Ian and Henry grew up on
Yeah.
Flipper.
So you heard
And
Mark
so we
now.
just started playing Flipper songs,
Oh,
and so
shit.
we all, and Henry was singing, and everybody was super, and we played like 3 different Flipper tracks, like all in a
Riot
row, like
Spray essentially
totally
became a-
spontaneously. Riot
That's
Spray just sounded like Flipper. Yeah, it was that was the best. That was the best part of the day. It was really fun.
And Anthony, as far as your experience as a musician goes, have you experienced any having to play with anybody like these guys, essentially? Like who bring a kind of a really fast tempo sometimes, and
How different is your
it is?
experience, playing with these two as opposed to everyone else you've, created music with?
Well, I mean, I was doing a lot of different projects after school, and it's hard for me to throw it all together right now. But
Sure.
the difference is we get to. This is a band. A lot of the situations I was in before, it was they were improvisational, just meetings. So even if I was going to do a record under my name, there was no rehearsal. I hired some people to play, and we just met in the studio, and I hope for the best. But I'm grateful because with Joe and Brendan, we rehearsed a lot to get these songs together. So it gave me the time to really make sure I got to say what I wanted to say, and it gave us the time to develop a vocabulary as a group. So just getting to hang out with them and work this closely has been amazing. I haven't been in a situation like this since I was 24, where I was
I see.
working outside of performing.
Yeah, okay.
And a lot of the stuff that he plays, like the bands he's played with, I mean, we're nothing compared to
I see.
how fast, like
Oh,
the
really?
Danny Gatton stuff and all that I've seen him play. Yeah, you should check out some of that shit.
So you're saying that you think you're actually
He's actually just slumming it with
got
us.
it. Got it. So I have an interesting question, and it kind of pertains to Spotify / streaming / that whole idea of just streaming music. I mean, how is that as artists that were very kind of protective of your releases and where they went, and then B, have you noticed any? I mean, there's definitely been a second wave of fans in terms of like Fugazi, even if that just means that because Waiting Room is popping up on 10,000 Spotify algorithms, which it absolutely does. among other songs. But do you guys notice that, and how do you feel about it? Is it something that like is kind of present to you when you're creating?
It's the thing about streaming music. It's just I think we're always going to see making a group of songs to release as an album with a side A and a side B, and it's just a medium to work in. It's like a type of paint on a particular surface, for making a piece of art. And it's just hard not to look at it that way, because I'm always going to think of music as the music that we're going to think of music as music that we love, and albums that we love, and that's just the way that it works. And the fact that a lot of things have changed, and people absorb music in a different way, they pay for music in a different way, that may completely ignore the artist and not pay the artist. It doesn't seem to be a whole lot we can do about that. And it also is not part of our art making. Like, that's like it may have its effect financially, but it's still like, we're not gonna announce that this is the last record that we're making,
right,
because we just need to put out a song at a time.
Right.
It just doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, because I know that ultimately the medium now is almost a little bit different, right? Now that people can there's literally a star next to the songs that people like the most. Listen to these three. You don't really have to put on the record and listen to the whole album.
Isn't it?
It's weird, and I know that artists still create with the intention of listening to something from front to back. So again, I was just wondering if that was something that was on the top of your head, but I guess you're saying no, it's not really. You're still thinking
it's
which is
if
great.
you can be involved in it in a more organic form, it's already like when you're not playing it in front of people, it has to become somewhat sterile by being in a recording space specifically to record that particular version, and so on, and then it ends up there and living that way on a piece of vinyl or what have you, and that you take out, and you listen to. That's enough removal from the actual act of making it, but then the idea that it goes into like you're so removed that you're just kind of looking at things that go by depending on the amount of people that have been looking at it. Just has nothing to do with reality.
It gets thrown into an algorithm
or time. So much of these things are just floating out in the ether of the internet, and they don't have any relationship to time and history, and so I like we're showing up and making records still because we believe in the history of records. We believe that records influence other records and artists influence other artists, and it's like not just like some big data download of all the music that's ever that's existed. So these records that we're making are like just a document of our time together, right? It's all what's happened in the real minutes, hours, and months and years that we've been together. And then when we move on, they'll be done, but there will be. It's my hope that they are inspected and assessed as like documents from 2017, 2018, 2019.
Sure. Historical pieces.
Historical pieces. I'd like to think
100%.
we're not a genre band. I'd like to think we're not trying to reference, anything specific. But this is actually like catching, a somewhat random amount of influences that we all bring to the table, and then we put together. And it's like that equation, the Venn diagram that is created by the three of us, and the playground that is created in the middle of that Venn diagram. All that is what we're experimenting in, and whatever we happen to come up with on that is these records and these shows. And so to me, it's important that we're treating it with the respect that I feel like it deserves.
That's a hell of a thesis.
Yeah.
I love it. So we're running out of time, but I've got a couple fan-submitted questions. A couple of these have come in like over the couple of years since you've been on, and over the past couple of days. Some of these are quick fire. Answer the one. I mean, some of these are weird. I'll be honest with you. So first question: which album means the most to you? I don't know if that's specifically records that you've been involved with, or just albums that you enjoy in general. But you can answer it however you'd like.
want to talk about Ask the Ages?
I could actually answer this one.
Boom.
Sonny Chirac, Ask the Ages. That's one of my favorite records because it's a mix of jazz, free improvisation. There are beautiful compositions that sound like jazz, but he's composing with bar chords on the guitar. He's using distortion on the guitar, so it has a rock element to it, and there are overdubs. That's a record that really was big for me.
Cool. Oh,
Are we all going to?
You don't all
talk about a record.
Let's all talk about a record.
I'll throw one out there. A record I discovered when I was being turned on to all the new music that was considered punk rock at the time. Although it's all been categorized differently now, and I can still go back and listen to, and it is just such a strange sounding record. Tuxedo Moon, Half Mute, is just a favorite record of mine.
Okay.
And listen to it for yourself.
Yeah, take notes, everyone.
And I'm gonna pick out of all the records that have ever existed, the Bad Brains Roar tape,
That's
which is like a high mark of playing and cohesion.
especially from a drummer's perspective.
From a
too.
drummer's
I mean,
perspective,
jeez.
it's always I'm always thinking about him.
Do we have any fun Fugazi tour stories? Like, what's one that's a notable one?
Over 15 years,
Yeah.
I think, however long.
There's got to be one.
I mean, besides being attacked by giant throngs of skinheads and soccer hooligans
that
in
sounds-
Poland while they were smashing out the windows of the place we were eating and having to jump out the back window and driving across the field with our lights out so we don't get
Yeah.
killed.
Yeah.
No, I guess that's not fun.
Well, I was like, I don't know if they were hitting up water parks or like, I don't know how.
Water parks.
I don't know.
Actually, we're not allowed to have too much fun before you'd play because you couldn't go skateboarding. You might end up in the hospital.
Yeah.
So you have to prepare for the show.
I
That's
remember-
not true. We'd go
We go
knee boarding
we
or
went cliff
some
diving with Gibby once from
That's
the
right.
buttholes. That was fun.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
down
was
in Austin.
I was going to say in
Yeah,
Austin.
That was
of course.
a blast.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, he was a wild guacamole, man.
Yeah,
he
he's
jumped
a-
out and
wild guacamole.
just flat out do a
Almost a belly flop.
belly flop, just
Oof.
straight up. He just
Okay.
and he's like,
You would hit the water
yeah. And then he came up. He
Like on
goes,
purpose?
he said, "You
Sense
know
at
you're
all.
fucked up when that shit doesn't scare you," and it's true. It's true. It was terrifying.
Okay. Yeah, that story suffices.
Does that work?
Yeah, that totally works
Okay,
for me.
that's fun.
And I'll make this the last one because it could potentially could be a big one. Do you still consider your band and the music that you guys make punk rock?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because it's a weird
I s-
question.
I still don't spend enough time thinking about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Even right now, I can't seem to get myself to think about it.
Yeah, and I think that's fine.
I don't know what it means.
I mean, I'd like to think, like I said before, I don't really like to think of us as a genre
To box
band,
anything in, right? Yeah.
But I like to think that we somewhat behave in a continuum of political thought that and do put our energies towards things that and benefits that we still believe in, and try to behave, try to not rook people.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we try to play with conviction. I don't know, but beyond that, I don't know what. I mean, I'm the same person that I was when I was fucking 14 when I saw the Bad Brains for the first time in 1980. So it's like I feel like I'm a vessel of my inspirations.
Yeah, there's always the sort of argument about what it is and what it means to you and all that. If you start using a term
Right.
like punk rock, but for sure what we're doing is part of the same line of what we're always doing.
In essence, right? Ultimately. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have anything else?
I
You
think
good?
that's it. Yeah.
Listen,
Ready for the
guys.
show.
Okay. Hey, thanks a lot.
Yeah,
Really
this
appreciate
for
it.
having us.
this has been amazing, and I'm super super looking forward to seeing you guys. This will be my first time seeing
Oh,
any
awesome.
of y'all play.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
Oh, wow, that's
this
exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is very exciting.
Yeah.
And I hope we can do this again.
Maybe you
someday.
could come up on stage and we'll watch you while you're watching us
That
for the first
I would.
time.
That
Yeah.
would be just a fucking nightmare for me. Yeah, that would be awful.
Don't know what to do with your hands.
Yeah, I'll
kind of like, oh yeah, just bob the head a little bit.
Give an occasional wave.
Exactly.
Hey, Joe.
You're doing great. This is so great.
Yeah.
I didn't like that one.
Yeah.
That one was not good.
In a way, it's happened before.
Yeah.
It's not like he'd be the first one.
That's
Yeah,
like
that's true.
that's like arguably
Wait.
every weird punk rock show. Everybody
Yeah,
sitting
no
up at the
shit,
front.
exactly.
The only time Fugazi played Napoli, did one show, and people just stood around us on the stage, looking at the audience, but standing next to us.
Okay.
I've forgotten that one. That was a
Why?
crazy show.
I don't know. There's a guy standing. There's a guy standing next to me, literally just.
As you're playing.
Like, all right.
Hey, bro.
I didn't know if he didn't understand what we were doing, and so he was trying to.
Hey, this is
ask
show, dude?
everybody. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, fellas. Thank you so much. Good luck
Thank you,
tonight.
Brandon.
Looking
Yep.
forward to tonight.